Imagine having it all: the dream job, the luxury car, the perfect family. But waking up every morning with a gnawing sense that something is profoundly wrong. What if the very symbols of your success are just gilded cages, trapping you in a life that feels utterly meaningless? This disconnect isn't just a midlife crisis. It's a sign that you might be suffering from existential idling, a subtle but devastating form of self-sabotage where you drift passively through life, avoiding the very things that could give it purpose. The stakes are higher than you think. It's not just about wasted time, it's about a wasted life, filled with regret and the haunting feeling of what if. Understanding existential idling is the first step toward reclaiming your life and building a future filled with genuine meaning and lasting fulfillment. One of the most common manifestations of existential idling is the busy but unproductive trap. Picture this. You're constantly attending meetings, answering emails, and juggling a million tasks, yet at the end of the day, you feel like you haven't accomplished anything truly significant. It's like running on a treadmill. You're expending energy, but you're not actually going anywhere. Consider the entrepreneur who spends countless hours perfecting their social media presence, but neglects the core aspects of their business, like product development or customer service. Or the student who highlights every sentence in their textbooks, but can't recall any of the information later. This frantic activity serves as a convenient distraction from confronting deeper questions about your values, goals, and ultimately, the meaning of your existence. This isn't a new problem. Philosophers like Soren Kierkegaard and Albert Camus grappled with these very questions centuries ago, offering profound insights into the human condition and the search for purpose in a seemingly absurd world. We'll explore their ideas as we dissect this modern malady. To truly grasp existential idling, we need to go beyond simply labeling it as laziness or procrastination. It's a more insidious form of self-deception, a concept known as bad faith in existential philosophy. Bad faith, as described by Sartre, is essentially lying to oneself to avoid facing the burden of freedom and responsibility. Existential idling is a modern manifestation of bad faith, where we convince ourselves that we're living fulfilling lives, while actively avoiding the difficult choices and meaningful engagements that would actually make us happy. It's not just about being busy, it's about being busy with the wrong things. Think of the person who spends hours binge-watching TV shows instead of pursuing their creative passions, or the individual who maintains a wide circle of superficial acquaintances but avoids forming deep, authentic connections. We might even consider someone who is chronically online, hopping between social media platforms, chasing dopamine hits, and never truly pausing to reflect on their experiences. Existential idling is, in essence, an elaborate distraction from the profound questions that haunt us all. In the course of this video, we'll delve into the psychological factors that drive existential idling, such as avoidance mechanisms and defense mechanisms, those unconscious strategies we use to protect ourselves from uncomfortable truths. We'll also examine the societal pressures that contribute to this phenomenon, including the relentless demands of consumer culture and the addictive allure of social media. And of course, we'll explore the philosophical underpinnings of existential idling, grappling with existential dread and the ever-elusive search for meaning. Another pattern to consider is the illusion of choice. In today's world, we're bombarded with endless options, from streaming services to career paths, which can lead to paralysis and a sense of emptiness. Imagine spending hours scrolling through Netflix, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of content, only to end up watching nothing at all. But why do we engage in existential idling? Are we afraid of confronting our own mortality? Are we seeking to avoid the responsibility that comes with freedom? Is it a fear of failure that prevents us from pursuing our dreams? Or is it something even more profound? We'll uncover the hidden motivations and psychological mechanisms behind existential idling, shedding light on the unconscious forces that drive these behaviors. We'll also touch on the comparison game and how constantly measuring ourselves against others on social media can fuel feelings of inadequacy and perpetuate existential idling. Prepare to confront some uncomfortable truths as we explore the depths of the human condition, guided by the wisdom of philosophers like Kierkegaard and Camus, and the insights of psychological concepts like defense mechanisms and cognitive biases. But what fuels this insidious cycle of distraction and avoidance? At its core lies existential dread, that profound sense of unease stemming from the awareness of our own mortality and the apparent meaninglessness of existence. It's the unsettling realization that life, in the grand cosmic scheme, may be devoid of inherent purpose, and that we are ultimately responsible for creating our own meaning. Is it any wonder, then, that we seek refuge in distractions, in activities that numb the pain of this awareness? The philosopher Albert Camus grappled extensively with this concept of the absurd, the inherent conflict between our human desire for meaning and the indifferent universe. This search for meaning, in a world that seemingly offers none, can be utterly overwhelming, leading some to passively accept a life devoid of purpose. Someone struggling with this might avoid thinking about long-term goals, focusing instead on the mundane tasks of daily life. They may go through the motions, adhering to societal expectations, but never truly engaging with their own passions or values. Compare this to an artist who actively confronts their existential dread by pouring their feelings into their work, or a philosopher who delves deeper into the nature of reality. One path leads to potential growth and self-discovery, the other to stagnation and a life unlived. Which path are you on? Schopenhauer, with his bleak yet insightful perspective, argued that the fundamental driving force of human existence is the will, a blind, irrational striving that inevitably leads to suffering. This inherent suffering, he believed, is the root of our discontent, and we constantly seek ways to escape or alleviate it. Existential idling, in this context, becomes a way to avoid the pain of confronting deeper emotional issues. Imagine someone choosing to spend hours playing video games instead of addressing a difficult problem at work or in their personal life. The game offers a temporary escape, a distraction from the underlying anxiety or discomfort. This might be seen as choosing the lesser evil of boredom over the potential pain of confronting the problem head-on, but it's a choice that ultimately perpetuates the cycle of existential idling. Our society also plays a significant role in fostering existential idling, especially with consumer culture's constant bombardment of advertisements and the emphasis on material possessions. We're told that happiness can be bought, that fulfillment lies in acquiring the latest gadgets or achieving a certain lifestyle. This incessant messaging distracts us from seeking deeper meaning and purpose, leading us down a path of superficial desires and fleeting pleasures. It fuels the keeping up with the Joneses mentality, where we constantly compare ourselves to others and strive to attain what they have, regardless of whether it aligns with our own values or brings us genuine satisfaction. Social media further exacerbates this issue. Social comparison theory highlights how constantly measuring ourselves against others online leads to feelings of inadequacy and a desire to escape our own perceived shortcomings. We see curated versions of other people's lives, the highlight reels, the exotic vacations, the seemingly perfect relationships, and feel a sense of envy and dissatisfaction with our own reality. Think of someone constantly checking Instagram, comparing their body, their lifestyle, and their accomplishments to those of influencers and celebrities. While these platforms offer the illusion of connection, they can often leave us feeling more isolated and disconnected than ever before. What is the difference between an online friend and a real friend? Consider the attention economy, the driving force behind many of these platforms. Their primary goal is to capture and maintain our attention, using algorithms and addictive content to keep us scrolling, clicking, and engaging. The ethical implications of these practices are profound. as they exploit our psychological vulnerabilities and contribute to a decline in individual well-being. A prime example is the TikTok algorithm, which is designed to learn our preferences and serve us an endless stream of highly engaging videos. This can lead to hours spent mindlessly consuming content, losing track of time, and neglecting more meaningful pursuits. Imagine someone starting to scroll through TikTok, intending to watch for just a few minutes, and then realizing that hours have passed. Where did the time go? Underneath these surface-level distractions, psychological defense mechanisms are also at play. These unconscious strategies help us to avoid anxiety and emotional pain, but they can also contribute to patterns of existential idling. Denial, for instance, might manifest as someone downplaying the negative consequences of their time-wasting activities. They might say, "I deserve this after a long day at work," as they settle in for another evening of binge-watching, ignoring the fact that they're neglecting their health, their relationships, or their personal goals. Rationalization could involve justifying existential idling as a form of self-care or stress relief, even when it's ultimately detrimental to one's well-being. "I'm just relaxing and recharging," they might tell themselves, as they spend another weekend glued to their phone, avoiding the difficult conversations or challenging tasks that would actually lead to growth and fulfillment. Displacement can involve channeling anxiety or frustration into less threatening activities. Instead of addressing the root cause of work-related stress, an individual might engage in excessive gaming or online shopping. The temporary relief they experience from these activities masks the underlying problem and prevents them from taking meaningful action to resolve it. It's easier to buy a new phone than it is to look for a new job. All of these unconscious strategies are designed to protect us from emotional discomfort, but in the long run, they only serve to perpetuate the cycle of existential idling. Let's revisit the busy trap pattern, but now with a more nuanced understanding of its function as a form of avoidance. It's not simply about being busy. It's about being busy with the wrong things, with activities that distract us from confronting our true desires, potential, and fears. Someone who is genuinely passionate and productive is driven by a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Their activities align with their values and goals, and they experience a sense of flow and engagement. In contrast, someone who is simply busy to avoid deeper issues is often characterized by a lack of direction, a sense of unease, and a feeling of being overwhelmed. Purposeful action, then, is the antidote to the busy trap. It involves aligning one's activities with one's values and goals, focusing on what truly matters, and prioritizing meaningful engagements over superficial accomplishments. Which sounds better, working on a passion project or doing the dishes? This connects to the fear of failure, which is often a driving force behind the busy trap. Some individuals might prefer to stay busy, filling their lives with tasks and commitments, rather than risk pursuing something meaningful and potentially falling short. They might be paralyzed by what-ifs, imagining all the ways they could fail, and using busyness as a way to avoid confronting those fears. It's safer to stay busy than to risk rejection or disappointment. However, this avoidance only serves to perpetuate the cycle of existential idling, preventing them from ever realizing their full potential. So, how do we break free from these patterns of existential idling and reclaim our lives? Self-reflection is a crucial first step. It involves taking the time to examine our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and to understand the underlying motivations that drive them. Journaling can be a powerful tool for gaining self-awareness and uncovering hidden patterns. What activities do you engage in when you're feeling anxious or stressed? What are you avoiding by staying busy? What truly matters to you? Mindfulness and meditation can help us cultivate present moment awareness, reducing the urge to escape into distractions. Even a few minutes of daily mindfulness practice can make a significant difference. Start by finding a quiet space, closing your eyes, and focusing on your breath. As thoughts arise, gently acknowledge them and let them pass, without judgment. This simple exercise can help you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings, allowing you to make more conscious choices about how you spend your time and energy. It is all about setting clear intentions and prioritizing activities that align with your values and goals. Time blocking is an excellent method for reclaiming your time and attention. Schedule specific blocks of time for activities that are important to you, such as working on a creative project, spending time with loved ones, or engaging in self-care. Finally, it's time to confront the cynicism that often accompanies existential idling. Cynicism can become a shield against vulnerability and genuine engagement, protecting us from the pain of disappointment or rejection. Someone who dismisses all attempts at self-improvement as New Age nonsense is likely using cynicism as a way to avoid confronting their own fears and insecurities. Societal pressures also contribute to a loss of self and a reliance on cynicism. The constant barrage of negativity in the news, the competitive nature of social media, and the pressure to conform to societal expectations can all lead to a sense of disillusionment and a desire to withdraw from the world. Vulnerability and authenticity are powerful antidotes to existential idling and cynicism. Embracing our imperfections and connecting with others on a deeper level allows us to experience genuine connection and meaning. You can combat cynicism by practicing empathy, challenging negative thought patterns, and seeking out supportive relationships. It's about embracing discomfort and stepping outside of your comfort zone, allowing yourself to be seen and heard, even when it feels scary. But what if these societal pressures are too great, and the ingrained habit of avoiding our fears has become too strong? Let's return to our initial scenario, the individual who has achieved conventional success but remains unfulfilled. What if their relentless pursuit of happiness, as defined by societal norms, is precisely what's leading them astray? This brings us back to existential idling, that subtle yet pervasive state of drifting through life without genuine purpose or engagement. It's the art of wasting your days in a way that appears productive, but ultimately leaves you empty. We've explored the patterns that define this state, the busy trap, where constant activity masks a lack of direction. The illusion of choice, where limitless options lead to paralysis. The comparison game, where social media fuels feelings of inadequacy. And the numbing cycle, where substances and behaviors offer temporary escape. Each pattern at its core stems from deeper drivers: existential dread, the fear of confronting our own mortality; societal pressures, the weight of expectations and comparisons; and psychological defense mechanisms, the unconscious strategies we use to avoid emotional pain. These drivers perpetuate existential idling, keeping us trapped in a cycle of avoidance and distraction. Throughout this exploration, we've presented antidotes to these traps: self-reflection, the honest examination of our thoughts and feelings; mindfulness, the cultivation of present moment awareness; authenticity, the courage to embrace our true selves; vulnerability, the willingness to connect with others on a deeper level; and purposeful action, aligning our activities with our values and goals. These aren't mere concepts. They're tools for reclaiming our lives from the clutches of existential idling. The key is integrating them into your daily routines. Understanding and addressing existential idling has far-reaching implications. It's not just about improving time management. It's about enhancing mental health, deepening relationships, and fostering a greater sense of personal fulfillment. Consider the potential consequences of unchecked existential idling. A life filled with regret, a sense of meaninglessness, and the gnawing feeling of having never truly lived. Now, contrast that with the possibilities of conscious engagement, a life of purpose, connection, and profound meaning. The difference between these two paths is stark, and the choice ultimately lies within your hands. It's the contrast between a life passively observed and a life actively created. The power to shift from a passive to an active stance is profoundly transformative. It's a journey towards self-actualization, the realization of your full potential. To recognize the power you have is to recognize you must also take responsibility. Understanding these concepts empowers you to make more conscious choices, to live in alignment with your values, and to create an existence that is both authentic and deeply meaningful. In a world designed to distract and consume, reclaiming your time and attention is a radical act. As the philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." What better to do with your time than to be truly, authentically yourself? Begin implementing these antidotes today. Dedicate just 15 minutes each day to journaling, exploring your thoughts and feelings. Practice a 5-minute mindfulness exercise, focusing on your breath and cultivating present moment awareness. Share a vulnerable thought with a trusted friend, strengthening your connections. Identify one activity aligned with your values and commit to doing it this week, even if it's just for an hour. Breaking free from existential idling is not without its challenges. You'll likely encounter resistance to change, the fear of discomfort, and the addictive pull of distractions. Seek support from others, whether it's a therapist, a friend, or a support group. Set realistic goals, start small, and gradually increase the intensity of your efforts. Remember, this is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix. Be kind to yourself when you stumble and celebrate your progress along the way. This is about lifelong learning and personal growth. So, what are the next steps in this journey of self-discovery? How can we deepen our understanding of existential philosophy and apply it to our daily lives? How can we create more meaningful connections in a digital age, resisting the allure of superficiality? How can we build a more purposeful life in a world that often feels meaningless? Consider delving deeper into the works of Kierkegaard, Camus, and Schopenhauer, exploring their insights on meaning, existence, and the human condition. Explore different forms of meditation and mindfulness practices, finding what resonates with you. Engage in community with others seeking authentic connection, sharing your experiences and supporting one another. Perhaps future videos can discuss the role of creativity in combating existential idling, the importance of finding your ikigai, your reason for being, or the challenges of navigating a complex world with a sense of purpose. Take the first step towards breaking free from existential idling today. Choose one small action from this video and commit to doing it this week. Share your experience in the comments below and join the conversation. The time is